Welcome to this StormFX presentation about true volume sharing with SANmp. I'm going to use an example that is similar to this one. Essentially, I have three workstations who can access the same partitions on the same storage device as local disks. The iMac and the MacBook Pro here, for example, can do this through iSCSI if they have an application such as Global SAN, which is provided by Studio Network Solutions. Essentially, all these three computers see these two partitions as their local disks, which again will lead to data corruption unless I use a clever volume sharing mechanism such as SANmp. Let's jump into the user interface. I have enabled a direct attached storage, which is attached to this MacBook Pro. I made it a storage that is available through iSCSI over the Ethernet, so another machine can access the very same storage, which usually would be a dangerous thing to do. I have used this application here to enable iSCSI, and I'm going to use SANmp to allow multiple users to share the storage. Now, before I can do this, I need to take the storage, for example, FibreChannel storage, and convert it into SANmp volumes. This is necessary to create a database, a mechanism that allows SANmp to manage the users. Fortunately, this can be done non-destructively, which means that any data on my volumes will still be available after converting the volumes to SANmp volumes. Here I am. I have the very same disk converted into SANmp disks. I have a different icon here. They are no longer available on my desktop because with volume sharing I need to assign users, and currently there are no users, so the volumes are simply not visible. The next step would be to enable two users because I have two computers. I create a user 1 and a user 2 for both partitions, and I will give them read and write access. Here we are, user 1, user 2 on both volumes, and this is pretty much all I need to do. I can now log in as a user on any of these machines and start to work. I simply launch the SANmp client software, which always needs to be launched. It's the software that is managing the read and write access. I'm going to access data 1 as user 1, and I'm going to mount the storage as read and write. It appears here as a new volume, and green essentially means I have write access. And if I open the volume, all the media that I have done previously is still there, and I can obviously change files and have full access to this volume. Now let's take a look how this would look on a different computer. Here I am on my Mac Pro. I'm using VNC, and before I can connect to the SANmp volumes, which are essentially directly connected to my MacBook Pro, I need to establish an iSCSI connection. I use the Global SAN iSCSI initiator. Connect to my MacBook Pro, and this is all I need to do. Still, I don't see any volumes on my desktop because I simply haven't logged in as a user yet. So that's the next thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to open SANmp client, log in with my user credentials, and have the possibility to choose between these volumes here, which have been assigned to me as a user. So let's say I want to use the very same volume as a write and read volume. I get an error message, and this is the benefit of SANmp because it will prevent any other users to corrupt the data. Only one user at a time can write to a SANmp volume. This means that I, as a user of the Mac Pro, can only use this volume as a read-only volume. In a post-production scenario, this means that I can use this data and this volume to read video data, to color grade, edit, and work with that data, and then to write my own render files to my own volume as a user with all privileges. So let's say I read from data 1, I do whatever I need to do, color correction, editing, and then I render back to data 2. It's still the same volume. I'm not working locally with my own disk that then needs to be transferred to another workstation. So that means once I am done on data 2, the user on the MacBook Pro simply goes ahead and says, I would like to read from that volume, and then I have the possibility to access the very same volume that the color correction system has been using to retrieve the files and continue to work with them. Of course, at any time I can change my access to data 1. I can say I no longer need to write to this volume, and I unmount the volume so that someone else can mount it with read and write access. That was a brief overview of SANmp. It's a great way to share storage between multiple computers and a very inexpensive way as well, especially if you're using iSCSI.